Here's my iRig.
What?
iRig.
What is sitting there? It fell.
It's right in front of me.
It fell.
Oh, this is a better picture for sure. I'm starting it. I'm doing it.
Judge Zeller joins us in studio. We've got a Caleb Shaw Award contender. New York police members say they may have been poisoned, and Google trying to erase history. All that and more coming up on today's Wade and Carter Show. I'm not anybody's slap bass ever.
No touching of the hair or face.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Morning, folks on YouTube. Let's do this.
We jump right into that weather. Like no foreplay, folks.
No.
It's serious business. The weather here in the local community, 73 degrees under already. Sunny skies heading to a high of 94. It's going to be a perfect day to fly, but it's going to be hot. How hot?
How hot is it?
Celebrity hot tub hot. Ow! Jump back.
Any rain today?
I want to kiss myself. Ow! No rain.
All right. There were some pop-up showers yesterday around the area.
Pop-up showers. That sounds like something Bob Ross would say. I've got the pine tree where I want it. Here's a little pop-up shower.
J-Dub, first one in. Good morning. Good morning, Iceman, Lisa Poole, Marvin Mickish, David Glass, Bobby Leister.
Is he a top fan yet?
I think he is.
Because I'm like, Marvin's in.
He's a top fan now.
He's reliable.
The Scots are in. Snow and Tomco, CW Bean, Chris Conrad. Good morning. Sales holding steady at 63 on the YouTube.
Marvin,
we'll fix
go
that.
subscribe to YouTube. We're trying to get to 1,000 listeners so we can give away more stuff to the Wade and Carter listeners.
Tomorrow, though, you're not going to want to tune into YouTube until we get that figured out, because tomorrow,
very excited.
Yeah, former Florida Congressman and
retired
Lieutenant Colonel in the Army, Alan West, is going to join us. He's running for the chair of the Texas Republican Party. And he's going to join us tomorrow via phone call.
Do we ask him about motorcycle riding?
Oh, yeah, I think everything.
I think we just
he doesn't run with anything.
No, I'll tell you what, he is. I've met him, and he is an extremely motivational and proud American. And you're going to be so encouraged that people like this are in our midst. And you're not going to be at all surprised that he's a Texan.
And want to run and make a difference.
Absolutely.
So we're excited for tomorrow's show. Today's show, Judge Zeller will join us in about bottom of the hour, so we're looking forward to that as well.
Plenty of things to ask the judge, too. Plenty of those of you that think that we give people softball questions will want to tune in. We're going to ask the judge a couple of tough questions.
We'll see the softballs today.
Yep. Good morning, Judge Posey. Hope you're doing well.
Chris Jansen, Jeremy Pena. We're huge in Alvin, Texas. BJ Nelson says it's almost too scary to get up. Never know what the news is going to be. Yeah, you kind of got that. Kevin Myers checking in. Karen Webb, Larry Leahy. Patrick Strauss is in. Catherine Imes. There's the judge checking in before he makes his way over here. Callie Fromme, Stephen Kidder, Christina Wise, Lisa Poole, Rena Scherer. Lisa Poole, Alan West will be joining us on the phone tomorrow. Yeah. I'm hoping maybe to get him in studio between now and election.
Back in Victoria.
Yeah. I think we will. Because what, the 14th, I believe, is July 14th, I believe, is the state Republican
That's
convention.
A Tuesday. That's it. Yeah. No, wait.
That's
July 14th. That's right.
Or the weekend. Yeah.
He'll be in Houston.
Johnny Houghton checking in. Heather Monroe. Good morning. Matt Boucher. Patricia Nagel. Bobby Sparkman.
What a group. Bobcat. Good morning, sir. There's Jamie Zeller.
Let's see who's in up here. We got to be a couple.
Jamie listens in when Ben's going to be on the air. Doesn't give us a lot of,
nothing the rest of the time.
The rest of the time, not much.
Nothing. No, there's
my lovely bride. Hello, T-Lat.
Christina Wise, Matt Boucher, Dee Dee Geigel. So I think we're caught up. Good stuff. So I don't know all the intricacies of, and I'm not a Supreme Court, but they ruled yesterday no discrimination against LGBTQ. I thought that you couldn't discriminate in this country at all. So I guess that's good.
I did too. And then I started thinking that even as hardline conservatives as you folks think I am, I can't imagine firing somebody or not hiring somebody over who they love. I mean, if you can do the job, I'm going to hire you. But maybe that wasn't the law of the land, and maybe that's what needed to be done. I always have a problem with people that are in the subset, like we're all Americans. If you create a subset for yourself with your lifestyle and then start demanding that other people acquiesce to your demands for rights, I'm always leery of those rights.
But you have that right in this country.
Right. And I find myself correct instead of right. I find myself saying, just because I'm not guilty, if you will, of discriminating in that manner doesn't mean that there's not a need for a law. And it kind of falls into the deal of just because you and I don't think that way doesn't mean that we don't have some white privilege. It's the same kind of logic. I don't think that way, but I don't think that way because of the way I was raised. So I do think that it's interesting that we definitely live in an at-will state, in terms of employment. And it's interesting to me that if, let's say that I'm a restaurateur and I hire you as a waiter. People like your demeanor, your professional appearance, and the way you handle yourself. 3 weeks into your tenure, you start showing up in a skirt and heels, but you still have the beard. Now, to me, you can be a distraction. You don't bring the same qualities to the job. And I decide that I don't want you to be my waiter anymore. That should be my right as a restaurateur. I shouldn't have to, in my opinion, endure what I determine to be humiliating staff, because you would not be a good-looking woman. So I don't know. I don't know where that falls in. Does that make me discriminatory? Did you substantially change the gifts you brought to the job? I don't know. Could be an issue for the Supreme Court. There's Marty Stockbauer. Good morning. Chris Cox. Yep.
Clint Ives says your shirt is a distraction.
Right. And
it's almost like a test pattern on the screen
pink,
this morning.
It's pink, and there's a lot of it.
All that's missing is that audible tone that runs behind the test pattern the whole time.
This shirt makes me look fatter than I am. I'm really not. I work out, people. I joke about my weight, but I mean, if you want to, come try to do my workout, come on over.
It's not hanging off like you're pregnant.
No, it's just kind of big.
It's a little blousy.
Looks like a sail.
This man calls it a tablecloth.
Yes, a picnic.
Yeah, kind of, maybe so.
What do you think about?
Breaking news driving in this morning.
Oh, no doubt. Right.
Ben Jordan and Sabine. There's a car tried to get into the front door, or at least the side door of the house on the corner, and didn't quite get there. Thankfully, the stop sign.
Yes, she
stopped it.
The stop sign and took out the Ben Jordan and Sabine sign. Wham! But just stopped mere feet from being a Caleb Shaw Award recipient.
Yeah. So contender, I don't know, but I drove by and they were giving us the roadside sobriety test.
You know you're going to have a bad day. This is it. You know you're going to have a bad day when before you're allowed to call Allen's Wrecker Service, you have to pass the field sobriety test at 6:30 in the morning.
And it was early because three of VPD's finest showed up.
3 Ford Explorers there. There's more lights there than Maximus. I mean,
Philip Burrow says tried to make the house a drive-through for the parade of homes.
Unbelievable. That calls for an unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a bad day. They go, have you had anything to drink? No, a couple of hours. Could you step out of the vehicle, please? We're going to ask you to come out. Okay.
2.
Yeah. I mean,
that's all I ever have.
We were playing Cards Against Humanity, and it got kind of late.
James Kurth checking in, Natalie Meyer, Jody Pickett.
You can make fun of people that drink and drive because they make bad choices.
Yeah.
You can make fun of them.
Wow.
There you go. Or Asians. It's okay. That's just one of the rules of comedy.
I'm waiting. We've almost gotten to the point now where, we're trying to decriminalize certain activities and
weed decriminalized.
not necessarily. Not saying that probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
I thought that's what you were talking
No.
about.
But drunk driving in this country kills about 10,000 people every year.
I would have thought that number was low.
It's almost too low for the left to even worry about it anymore, and just probably, let's not even worry about drunk drivers anymore.
Right.
The way things are going, and the lack of personal responsibility, and the way they want to rewrite our laws, and the lawless society that they're trying to achieve, despite them telling you that's not what they're going for.
There's funky tremolino. Did you know that yesterday Atlanta's mayor decided that officers now need to intervene? And I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. Officers now need to intervene with other officers that are getting out of control. Well, duh, that would have been a great thing to do in Minneapolis. Hey, could you get off his neck?
Yeah.
That would have been a nice thing. But when I go back to the gentleman in the drive-thru at Wendy's, so he's DWI, he resisted arrest, he assaulted a police officer,
2 police officers,
and he fled a scene with a weapon. Looking back, honestly, folks, the guy might have had it coming. Black, white, red, whatever. I mean, you're in the act of a felony when you disarm an officer and run. I mean, I don't look at that as a racially motivated shooting. I look at it as a bad timing issue. You don't need that at this moment. But I will tell you, I said it yesterday, you want to talk about reverse racism? If that guy in that drive-thru would have been white and a white cop would have shot him in the back, nobody would have cared.
Would he have been shot in the back?
I don't know. I don't know that either. So, I mean, there is the issue. Yep. What did Christina say? She's usually pretty sharp.
This is crazy. Opening the city up, and now they keep contradicting themselves. Our mayor and city council need to go. What did I see? We must have missed something up here somewhere.
Yeah, the city of Austin. They're
opening up today, right?
Notoriously goofy politically, because they don't matter. I mean, everything that matters there is happening at the state level. And the city of Austin is kind of like a little bitty town with too many people.
CW Bean says, so legalize weed and drive like they're in a UFO.
Right? But everybody drives real slow when they're stoned. That's the deal. I always say, hey, if somebody robbed a bank when they were high, it's like, don't chase them. Just go to Taco Bell. They'll be there in a minute.
You'll see them there.
It's no big deal. Alan's Rigger Service, 578-6300. I saw Alan and Janet yesterday, and they both said to tell y'all hi. 578-6300. He's been busy. He had a gravel truck. So yesterday I asked a dumb question. He said, I had a gravel truck overturn out there on 616. And I said, full or empty? He goes, Brent, the empty ones don't turn over. He goes, it was full. Gravel was everywhere. But they went out and got it up right. They used their crane. They salvaged most of the load. They spent the rest of the time cleaning up the scene. So Alan's Rigger Service, 578-6300. The VCS companies, Rocket Oilfield Services, and the only locally owned and authorized AT&T retailer are all part of the Hartman communication empire. I say empire because it started out years ago with two-way radios.
That was it.
Now, surround sound, surveillance, security systems, whatever you need. Control 4, you need the ability. It's a really
Video Doorbell Pro.
I visited with a gentleman named Colby the other day that works with them, and it was fun because he's excited about the things that the Control 4 can do. He goes, oh man, you get the app and you can you want to change your thermostat, you want to turn lights on and off. It goes, looks like you're home all the time and you be in Guatemala. Looks like your lights are coming on, Good stuff. How about White Trash Services right now? 550-1826.
Give them a call.
If you need a
All
robot
your trash.
dumpster, you need weekly trash service,
You need to-
anything in the
I
county,
got it all.
6-county region. And growing.
Name them. I'm going to put you on the spot this morning.
Well, there's DeWitt, Refugio, Jackson, Victoria, Calhoun,
Goliath.
Goliath.
I don't think Refugio's on the list. I think it's Lavaca.
I made that up. Guess what? I'll tell you what. Right then, some trash guy in Refugio went, "Oh no, they're coming here too." White Trash Services is blowing and going and growing. Get ready for them. 550-1826.
Give me a call.
Chesnick Furniture Company.
116 West One Lynn. They've only been in business for 100 years.
Since
They don't know.
1920, people.
They don't know what they're doing.
Get down there.
Yeah, see.
Check it out, like BJ Refugio.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not
They're
yet.
coming.
Coming after you, Refugio. We just make it up, BJ. We don't, look, I'm going to tell you something. On the radio signal, if you're on the other side of Guadalajara, you can't hear us. So don't worry about it. It's not like anybody's really hearing this. How about Chesnick Furniture, though, has bedding, Tempur-Pedic bedding, all types of appliances,
Furniture
50% off, celebrating 100 years.
for every room in your home. They've
Yep.
got it all.
Great company, great
All
folks.
the accoutrement.
Bobby Leon.
Probably Leon.
Bobby Lemon.
You just turned him into French.
Yeah, I did.
A French furniture
A
seller.
French racer.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh man. So
Look at that,
Google,
James Curd, not yet. See, people want
yeah, they do. So Google decided that they just needed to erase Sir Winston Churchill, from their list of UK prime ministers from 1940 to 1945.
probably the most important prime minister era in history.
And yet they still had him listed from 51 to 55. I don't quite understand why they got rid of probably the 5 most important years in the modern day history of the earth.
Because World War II didn't happen. And he didn't really give that speech. Never give in. Never give in.
I mean, what was
never,
it?
Never give in.
What are they mad about? He killed Nazis?
Yeah, it's a bad guy. The Google guys don't like that.
So, and then they tried to blame it on an error and said it would be back up shortly. And I kept checking through most of the evening just to see if they were living up to their words, and didn't see it yesterday. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. So Google took a little flack, especially from the English. They were
Yeah.
a little bit chapped,
Look at that. Next week, folks,
chafed.
the Victoria City request
Yeah.
for quotes. Oh, by the way, it's not Chaz anymore. Remember, we thought Chaz
Yeah.
was the deal. Now it's CHOP.
Capitol Hill, what are the Opportunity Zone?
No, Capitol Hill. It was Operation
It was the
Protest. or
it
something
was
like
the
that.
Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. Yeah.
Now it's the Capitol Hill. Was it oppression protest? Anyway, it comes out to CHOP. It's CHOP.
I did the search again, and there's no Winston Churchill from 40 to 45, so they're lying. Google's full of it.
Yep.
There it is. I just did it just to make sure, because I thought for sure I sleep on it. It'll be occupied property. Lisa Poole's questioning.
There you go. Oh no, we can't say that. Yeah, we can. Capitol Hill occupied by putzes.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seattle yesterday voted to city council banned tear gas, rubber bullets, beanbag grenades, other less. I don't want to say the word non-lethal, because they can be lethal if they hit
Right.
you, the right spot, but I guess less lethal weapons. And
They banned that. Huh?
people there were celebrating it.
So now, if you get shot, it's going to be for real.
And I just, facetiously posted a comment on a story on that said, well, I hope thoughts and prayers get you through now and will save your life. And nobody would debate me. Well, tear gas was banned by the Geneva Convention. That was about the only somewhat quasi-intelligent response to my comment.
Right.
Everything was bashing me as a person, not trying to engage in any
They
dialogue.
saw your hair.
Yeah.
Then they were on you.
Yeah,
By the way,
I was-
rushed to it. You ran a rush to that.
Here's
hair.
how tolerant. Yeah, I did for the first time in I don't know.
Look like Liam Neeson, doesn't he, folks? He looks like Liam Neeson
But here's the
from
funny
the
thing.
Taken movies.
From the group that's supposedly so tolerant. I had somebody call me Gay Fieri's gay husband.
Okay.
I guess because of my
Guy
hair. Right?
Fieri.
Yeah.
Guy Fieri.
What did I say?
Gay Fieri.
Guy Fieri, gay husband. That's how tolerant they are.
It makes them mean omelet. I mean, you do what you have to do.
So, you know.
I don't judge you for being
No,
gay.
but that's how the conversation went. And I was a little bit, facetious in my comment, but still, there was no attempt at all at dialogue. It was just all personal attacks, and because the left is so tolerant.
BJ Nelson says they aren't supporting themselves or contributing anything. I've got 2 of those at home. They're 12 and 7. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I can't even give them chores up there. Let's see. Now, come down. I'm sorry. There's Brent Anderson says, hi, good morning, sir.
James Kerr says they say it's like a Woodstock environment. Yeah, that's funny because all the videos I keep seeing out of there show it more like some sort of authoritarian Mad Max-ish.
There's no way that they're
intimidation.
They're defecating in the streets. You know that they're just trashing all the storefronts. I keep coming back to, what if you're the guy that owns a business on that street? You've got to be upset.
So who's lying? The business owners who keep claiming that they're being extorted for protection money, or the folks that have illegally occupied 6 square blocks of Seattle?
Probably those folks.
Right? Because they're quick to say, "Oh, we're not asking protection money from anybody."
Right.
But the business owners are saying, "No, I keep getting that. They're threatening me."
There's Uncle Norm checking in from Frisco.
Norm, I'm tending to side with the lawful, hardworking business owners,
and they're all liberal. So it's not like they're hating on them just for being liberal. There's probably not half a dozen Republicans in Seattle. It is interesting, though, they showed
tune into the show
when they went through Atlanta, Detroit, Baltimore. Like the last time that Atlanta had a Republican mayor was 1867. Folks, I mean, you are reaping what you sowed. But Uncle Norman should be 94 here today.
Dwayne Payne says, take away their Starbucks, they'll all go into detox.
Yep. Are the Olympic Games canceled?
Yeah, I believe they postponed them for a year. The Oscars have been postponed as well because of the delays in getting movies out for the rest of this year. So they've postponed them 8 weeks. So April of 2021 will be the next Oscars.
The Oscars don't matter, but I think about these kids, young adults, some of them even older adults who have trained specifically to
some of them only get one shot at it in 4. The 4 years comes. The Usain Bolts who run multiple Olympics and win multiple Olympics, rare. Very, very rare.
Carl Lewis is like the rarest of the rare. Mark Spitz, extremely rare.
But even Michael Phelps, who ran or swam multiple Olympics and won, but even competing in multiple Olympics is very rare. I mean, think about it. For you to compete in 2 Olympics, you're probably giving up 12 years of your life.
Yeah.
Because you're starting to train for the first one probably 4 or 5, 6 years before the first one ever hits.
Right.
Then you've got another 4 years for the next one. You're 12 to 14 years into it, and you might not even qualify for the second one.
Don't ask me why I remember this. I'll be curious if anybody else does, but it was one of those old videos about sports history, and it was a Olympic marathon, and the guy goes, and into the arena comes Emil Zatopek. Do you remember that? Remember Emil Zatopek? I don't know why I remember that. Emil Zatopek.
I don't know why you remember that either.
Look him up. Emil Zatopek.
Adam Dodger checking in. Erica Alex. Matt Oker says this is reminiscent of when the Macedonians occupied Rome.
See, we don't know.
I wasn't alive back then, Matt, so I'll have to take your word for it.
Right there. Bam. Emil Zatopek.
Nice. Check.
Born in 1922.
Which Olympics did he run in?
I'm getting to that. Best known for winning 3 gold medals at the 1952 Summer Olympics.
52. Let me guess where that is. I used to know all my Olympic cities. I'm thinking Helsinki.
Correct. He won the 5,000 meters, the 10,000 meters, but his final medal came when he decided at the last minute, just at the last minute, to run the first marathon of his life, and he won. just let you know that the marathon wasn't that big a deal at the old 52 Olympics because
Not like it is today.
people that went to run the marathon.
What was his time in the marathon that year? Did it say?
Emil Zatopek, the Czech.
There's a guy who'd only run 5,000 meters prior to that. So I guess all you got to do is run 5,000 meters and you're ready to go.
He didn't suck.
Didn't say it
He
was-
ran the marathon in 2 hours and 23 minutes.
No.
That's what it says. 2:23:04. No wonder he won.
That was a personal best, yeah.
Emil
Jeez.
Zatopek.
I don't know if that was the Olympic time, but that was his personal best.
That's
Pretty good.
getting after it.
Yeah, that is. Oh, let's
I'm
see.
not sure I could drive. I will tell you that the nickname for that blazer is Thirsty. If I did my calculations right yesterday,
Stomp on the gas and
5.8.
speedometer goes like this, gas needle goes like that,
It
right?
costs
Yeah,
$250 just to start it.
exactly. Stephen Tyler checking in. There's Zach Smith.
It's got to be running a little rich. Like gas is pouring out the exhaust pipe.
Oh, man. Matt Oker says he wasn't there for the Macedonians. His wife told him about it.
Right. That's nice.
Crystal Stringham checking in. Bobby Leister asked if that was a MASH from a MASH episode.
No, wait, which one? I know
I don't know. You're Zatopek. I don't know.
No, yeah, that's where it was. And into the arena comes Emil Zatopek.
Jody Pickett remembers Franz Klammer from the downhill at the Olympics in the 70s.
I remember the
76, I
downhill
think.
guy from ABC's
Innsbruck.
Wild World of Sports.
That was a setup. You know that was not an actual event. They were actually filming that just for the start of World of Sports.
The dude ate
And
it.
he ate it coming down the ramp and became one of the best known film clips ever. But yeah,
And the guy changed it. And the agony of defeat.
Jody Pickett, not a fan of Carl Lewis.
Oh, Carl Lewis was just such a pioneer. I mean, Carl Lewis was a guy that was smart enough to say, hey, you talk about capitalizing off your image. The Olympics, in theory, were amateur sports, and Carl Lewis said, not for me, baby. I'm going to make some cash off
Oh,
this.
it wasn't amateur sports. That Santa Monica Track Club back in the day was,
Ton of money.
yeah.
He's a rich man. Internationally,
Assistant track coach at UH.
yeah. All he can do is just give you advice. I mean, he talks about how that I listened to him talk about running the 100 meters, for example, and he said, look, you reach your peak speed and then you slow down, and it's whoever starts slowing, whoever slows the slowest wins. And he said, I had one advantage. Most people reach their peak speed at 50 miles at 50 meters, and I did it 60. And he goes, after that, I was still accelerating at the 60-meter mark, and all I had to do was hold on longer than them, which he did for like 8 medals.
Yeah. Brent Anderson says the last time the Summer Olympics were canceled was when Jimmy Carter did it for political reasons. They weren't canceled; they were boycotted. The
Correct.
Moscow Olympics still went on. It just was without the U.S. and a whole bunch of Western countries.
Yeah, and I don't like that Jimmy Carter boycotted the Olympics.
And then don't forget that led to the '84 boycott in L.A.
Right. The athletes should get together on their own and compete. Yes. And he won a box of Wheaties because there ain't no money. They ain't going without money.
No, not anymore. Plus, most of the countries give their medal winners a bonus.
And all those Olympic T-shirts will now be in like Ethiopia, little Ethiopian kids wearing Olympic T-shirts.
Well, I think by the time they canceled them, they might have just started making some of that stuff.
Well, talk about somebody who's starting to make some stuff. Get by Veracruz today. And I still recommend taking home an enchilada casserole for when you have that enchilada Jones in the middle of the night. Dawn won't let me have it because I get up in the middle of the night and fire up an enchilada. She won't let me do it. You know why you have an enchilada in the middle of the night, don't you?
No.
Because then it's okay to go ahead and have that Budweiser at 3 in the morning. Veracruz, 576-6015. Reach out to them. Go by. They're back, letting you come inside and dine. It's fantastic. Super clean. That is one thing they did a great job of at Veracruz. The entire time that they were serving curbside only or to go or pick up, they were cleaning. And the restaurant is just spotless. Go by Veracruz this week. Razor IT Solutions. I talked to John Paul yesterday. John Paul gave me the impetus for some of the comments we're going to have today with Judge Zetter when he gets here. And looking forward to visiting with JP again soon. If you need help with your analytics, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need help with your analytics. Reach out to Razor IT Solutions. They can help you build a website, enhance your brand, build a presence, help you with Facebook, the internet, paywalls, getting your pay button to automatically talk to your QuickBooks, all of those things. That's what Razor IT Solutions
All
does.
the stuff on the back end that makes your front end look good and work right.
Right.
Razor IT is responsible for all the back end stuff.
Razor IT Solutions puts the junk in your trunk. Atzenoffer Dealership since 1926, quite simply Victoria's dealership.
Atzenoffer.com, quite simply the world's online dealership.
Chevy, Mazda, Mitsubishi, Cadillac, they got them all. The new 2020 Cadillac is a beautiful, beautiful Escalade. Go by and check it out. They've got leasing opportunities. Of course, they service all makes and models. They sell all types of high-quality pre-owned vehicles.
Fleet vehicles, you need business cars, they've got them all.
And they do a great job in their paint and body shop. GDP text 550-4744. That's our buddy Dwayne Proctor. He does tremendous work, as do our friends at Compadres Design, who do our banners, t-shirts, swags, and caps. And that's all coming. More on the way.
Yeah. So before the judge gets in here real quick, some 3 New York police officers apparently were sickened last night after drinking shakes at a Lower Manhattan Shake Shack. Thought they tasted bleach. NYPD investigated, said there was no malicious intent or attempt. Apparently they cleaned the machines and maybe didn't quite rinse them out enough.
Well, we hope not.
So that's what the police is saying after investigating.
How would it be?
They found no criminality by the Shake Shack employees, according to Chief of Detectives Rodney Harrison. Did not go into details, but says it was accurate that there was some sort of cleaning solution or disinfectant found in the officers' beverages.
Well, the Shake Shack is a little old place to go and burn your guts out.
So
Shake Shack, baby.
So
Shake Shack, baby. So do we want to get the judge in here?
yeah, no, we
keep him in the green
we got to
room?
bring the judge in.
Okay.
He doesn't come here to sit in the green room.
No, he's going to come in.
Comes in here to face the hard questions.
He's got the tough questions today. He's going to turn that because he likes space time. It's in his contract. It's not anything we do. We try to spare you folks from that, but he wants to get that on that microphone.
Must be budget season. He's got the red pen of.
You want to be in the shot too?
No, I don't need to be in the shot. I don't want any memorization of me asking you tough questions.
I don't know that it's.
Hang on. Let's see.
Oh, there
you go. There you go.
There's a slight delay this
Yeah,
morning.
there's a little delay, and
I wouldn't call that the green room.
No.
It's just a frozen margarita machine with some bleach in it. Did you get one?
I've got my coffee. I'm good.
Who does that?
Cody Sugar checking in. Joe Davenport, Sky Sanchez. Good morning, everybody.
Sky, be on your best behavior.
Got a good group of folks listening in this morning.
We do.
We do every day. I saw Sheriff Louderback, Judge Posey's in. We've got Clint Ives was in. Your lovely bride Jamie's in.
All right.
So, I kind of want to, Ash said I could kind of lead part of this discussion today instead of him asking you all the tough questions. I went yesterday and went to Commissioner's Court.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to preface this by saying that and I think our listeners know that I think extremely highly of you personally, and which has nothing to do with what I'm going to ask you, which is what I'm proud of. I look at yesterday.
You haven't asked it yet. Don't be proud yet.
Right.
Might be premature proud.
Here's an idea. Have a point. Now, I look at yesterday, and I went to court intent on just observing. And you guys talked about item 9 on your agenda was whether or not it was a kind of a 2-part deal. Do we move on pursuing this forensic audit? Do we stop that and go forward with a purchasing program? There were some folks there. I know that Lee Swearingen was there. John Clegg was there. And some folks that encouraged you to go forward with the audit. And I thought that it was appropriate that the audit was voted down 4-1. The reasons that I observed being given were Commissioner Ives said he'd been approached by 5 people over the last week, and that all 5 of them came up unsolicited with the idea that this is dumb, y'all are wasting money. Danny Garcia said he had talked to 6 people. 1 had said carry on with the audit, and 5 others had said no, don't do that audit, that's dumb. They didn't go out and take polls. They were approached by people. I want to know the overriding underlying current is that a small, vocal, respected, and well-funded and influential minority of folks, small, vocal, well-funded, and influential minority of folks have been pushing for this audit under the guise of, if you don't do the audit, you got to be hiding something. How do you respond to people that may be on the fence as to whether, well, if they're not, because we live in a conspiracy world. Oh, if they're not willing to do the audit, it's because they're hiding something. Take all the time you want.
Sure. Well, thank you for that lengthy prelude and good question. To the description of this group of people, some of those adjectives I would agree with, some I think are very much overstated. 2 folks, and I do think it is a clique of individuals, a small group that are largely pushing this. To the folks who, like you mentioned, may be unsure what the issues are, unsure what they should believe, what would I say to them? I would point out a few things. Number 1, I would point out how this whole discussion has progressed over the years. What the accusations / concerns were on day 1, how those were addressed and pushed to the wayside only to bring forth new accusations that were subsequently addressed and answered, each answer leading to a new accusation of some kind. Among those being, day 1 when this started, y'all violated the bid laws. Well, as it turns out, we didn't violate the bid laws. We did a very public and legal and open bid exemption for that process, entered into a contract, and carried this building repair project out over a long period of time, which was in the open, which was legal, which was, in hindsight, you'd like more time, more opportunity to do a lot of these things. But one thing, and I think one key thing that I pointed out in yesterday's meeting addressed I wouldn't call it an argument, the statement, the criticism that we need to pay these consultants in order to do a thorough review of this. My response to that was, where on earth have you been for the past year? This has been these building repairs have been the most scrutinized and reviewed and studied and analyzed and critiqued and reported on undertaking in recent memory. I asked those in attendance yesterday to name me anything else that has been more thoroughly scrutinized, and I haven't gotten an answer to that. The notion that this hasn't been looked at, hasn't been reviewed is completely crazy. To the point of paying these consultants an open checkbook, I would wager that the majority of folks in attendance speaking in favor of signing this agreement had not read that agreement. If you had read the agreement that Commissioner Burns and his committee put in front of us and strongly recommended that we sign on the spot last week, if you were to read that, you would see some key things. Number 1, it's a team of about 5 or 6 consultants, each of whom were, the top 2 were making $450 an hour each. On down the line, hundreds of dollars per hour a piece, with notice in the agreement that those fees would be updated on an annual basis. Emphasis added. annually they would be updated.
So they were expecting this thing to drag out for at least a year, would be my guess.
It did specifically note that there would be no way to determine the cost of the undertaking or the length of time. It additionally pointed out that the procedures that they did would not be able to conclusively say whether or not there was fraud that existed. And to that issue of fraud, in the meeting last week, everybody pushing for this, maybe with one exception, readily agreed and acknowledged that it's not fraud that we're looking for. We're more needing to do another thorough review of how things were done, how things can be improved upon. But this is a forensic audit, and I don't want to get back into the debate over what that is and have to re-explain that. But a forensic audit is largely looking for fraud within a big scope of other things, other activities under review efforts. And so those are some things in that contract that probably most people didn't know about, certainly to my knowledge haven't been reported on, but it was a blank check. And what I pointed out yesterday was that the effort to take that blank check and to break it off into bite-sized pieces, the installment plan, aka the phased approach, really didn't change the dynamic of the open-endedness or the need for it, even aside from the dollars and cents.
To me, something like that would have dragged it along even further.
Well, I think it certainly would have, but even aside from the dollars and cents, and the dollars and cents are important because we're about to go into a very difficult budget time in which we're going to have to make some difficult decisions. But even aside from the dollars and cents, from where we stand today, June of 2020, what we reviewed, what we've answered, what we've analyzed, a forensic audit is not what we need. Although I think there's been good parts of this discussion leading up to this. Back when we were originally discussing this, in my mind, and at the beginning of the year, I was supportive of going out for the RFQ, getting proposals on this. I was the one who put it on the agenda. But from where we stand today with what we know, I don't think it's the right thing to do. And obviously 4 of the 5 members of the court agree.
Well, and you're going to see a lot of 4-1 votes from now on, because I'm just going to tell you, I know you don't have a comment on this, but Gary Burns is a puppet who's never had an original thought. And he's simply a lackey for these guys that say, get Gary to do it, get Gary to do it. And he doesn't take the time to think through his relationship with his peers, nor does he think through the logic of what he's really doing. He just does what they tell him to do. But I want to tell you this, it is not lost on me. It is not lost on me or our listeners, the irony, the gross irony of the fact that the people managing the puppet have all in an uproar because they felt like, and Gary Burns was fed the line to give to the Advocate a year ago, I just felt like we were using a blank check. These same people, ironically, managing their puppet, have absolutely no problem with the 5 of you okaying a blank check to a firm that we don't have any idea where it's going to end.
Well, that's correct. That's correct. And I spoke briefly to someone walking out of that building yesterday when I was walking in, and they said, you need to do the audit. And I politely said, what do you think will be found? And their answer, as per usual, was, well, I don't think you'll find anything, but this is drug on too long. We just need to do it. And I would certainly agree with the contention this is drug on too long. And people who want to drag it out further, certainly it's their prerogative to do so. All this is online.
It's become you must pass it to find out what's in it.
But it's only
another example of that.
It's probably
stated in writing in the document, essentially.
It's probably only a couple of $100,000, and these folks should all pony up and pay for their audit if that's what they want. However, I'd rather see you give that money to law enforcement. I'd rather see you give that money to drug interdiction or some other part of the county that's going to be suffering
Yeah.
when our tax.
Well, I
rate
guess
goes down.
citizens could probably do that, couldn't they? They could pony up some money, get somebody to do this, request a Freedom of
All
Information
the
Act.
information's on the website. Every invoice is there.
Also noted in this proposal that they tried to push through last week, was the simple sentence that the information that the firm analyzed would come from the county, us.
It's going to create more work for your people.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm leading at is the information they review would come from us. So those who think that Commissioner Yonix and our internal efforts at this have been shady.
Subversive and shady, yeah.
Right. So, and one thing also that I pointed out yesterday, just going to the point of how thoroughly this has been reviewed, throughout this very lengthy undertaking, there have been a multitude of participants in the effort who are very much have motive to find something wrong, to find a smoking gun, to find some element of corruption, people with personal or political or business or advertising agendas that would benefit from that, and they have failed every step of the way, which I think further supports my notion that this has been thoroughly reviewed.
It's all politics.
Well, there's a lot of politics to it, and the people most loudly demanding this be done and feigning concern and outrage that it hasn't been done, they all have something very unique in common. And I'll point that out going forward as this conversation continues.
Here's my quick thought on it, and then we're going to go to break, and then we'll come back. But it seems interesting that everybody was happy and moving along until all of a sudden the bid thresholds dropped, and now all of a sudden people have problems again. By the proposal
on the
purchasing policy that, and you know, I understand from the commissioner's point of view that it could lead to more work, but it seems that those who were in the community who are angry are now the ones being vocal again. They seem to be satisfied with everything until that, and now all of a sudden they're angry and vocal again.
Yeah,
because they're no longer be able to get that $49,999 check. They're going to get a $24,999 check.
That was nice while it lasted, wasn't it?
Right.
And I've turned a lot of these questions back around very respectfully on those on the other side of this discussion, if you want to refer to it as that, and asked what it is they intend to find, what it is they intend to accomplish, what's the return on investment of this. And there has not been a good answer to that. The answer has largely been, well, it's not our place to say what we want done in this analysis. Let them tell us what they think we should do, and then let them tell us what we should pay them. I disagree with that. I mean, clearly, who's working for who in this instance? If it's not a fraud investigation effort, and again, those pushing for this have conceded, or at least they've said that that's not what this is about. That's not the way that this should work. So
in the big picture to me, looking down at it from 30,000 feet, on one hand, you were danged if you do, because you tore down an old hangar, and people said he's not preserving history. So you tore down an old hangar, that made you a bad guy. And John Clegg didn't get to tear it down, and that started a chunk of this in Gary Burns here, because Johnny didn't get to do the work. Then we go over and we put a bunch of money. I don't know if it was a good idea or not. I haven't been in it. Put a bunch of money into the Officers Club, which has multiple uses, and the Master Gardeners use it and all that. And it's a focal point for some fairly big events in Victoria. And people didn't like that because they don't use it. They don't use it. So they thought, well, that was dumb. That was money he shouldn't have spent over there. And the next thing you know, it all became you spending the money. It's like you were out there like Jimmy Carter with your little nail bag on, Habitat for Humanity, building that building. What I look at is every building out there that was worth inhabiting is repaired and occupied. Every building in the county that had a claim, they're down to, maybe there's some little punch list stuff. I guarantee you there's punch list stuff at your house. Your own house has a punch list of things that need to be done.
And what I'd remind folks too is that all of the insurance proceeds that were put back into these buildings are identified and documented and accounted for. That was one of the original accusations, missing money. There was no missing money. It's all accounted for, documented. And again, that's all on the website. As far as I'm aware, the only thoroughly documented capital improvement project that's been on our website. As a practice, we don't put just random infrastructure improvement documents on the website, but we have for this. And again, I'll go back to the overwhelming effort of a lot of people and organizations to try to find something wrong. The local newspaper, for example, weekly for the better part of last year, pleaded with the public, please tell us, show us something that's wrong. Here's these documents.
If you know something, call us.
Here's these documents. We don't know what they mean, but if you do, please tell us what's wrong.
What's interesting there, a handful of people told Clinton Ives that they didn't want the money spent. I think a handful of people told Danny Garcia the same thing. So you got two handfuls of people in an entire county that had enough concern to voice their opinion, and they were against it. The rest either didn't care or felt that these 11 spoke for them.
That's an interesting part of the discussion. I don't weigh the number of calls or the lack thereof as big a barometer as whether or not something should be done as perhaps other people do. There was one person who emailed me over the weekend and said, don't do this. But I don't look at that as much. They say, what is the saying? Something about, doing the right thing when nobody's looking is character, honesty, but as much so, it's doing the right thing when everybody's looking.
Right.
And this is something that everybody, or at least had the opportunity to look at as much as it's been in the public eye, and what I voted for and what everybody on the court voted for is what they felt was the right thing to do for our county, for our taxpayers, and that vote was 4-1. Each commissioner represents a unique segment of the population, a different constituency, and they were voting for what they felt best was for their constituency and the county. And I think that vote was accurate in a 4-1 decision.
We were in an emergency time. I mean, if you look back, people even gave Paul Pulosic a pass for the fact that we went 14 days in this town without water. 14 days without water, and Paul got a pass.
Right.
You guys go out there and do what you have to do to expedite the repair of some buildings, and all of a sudden you're felons. I need the Texas Rangers in here.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I'll point out too is that throughout this process, from day one, from the time Harvey hit to at any point beyond that, any one of the individuals feigning outrage at this point could have chimed in with what they thought should be done differently at that time. If there was an individual with the wisdom and foresight to think that something should have been done differently as we went along, he or she certainly had the ability to do that, to say that. Why didn't they? Is this something that they
was stirred up, manufactured outrage?
Let's take our final break, and then we'll move forward with the conversation, because I want to get to a few other things that are
pressing. I'd like to hear your viewers are smarter than the average folks. I'd like to hear.
We got a few questions and comments on there, so yeah, that's what I want to get to. So
there may not be a smoking gun at Commissioner's Court, but there's some smoking meat going on in Uncle Mutt's Barbecue. You can get by there today, have brisket, ribs, sausage, chicken, turkey. I did the best I could. The judge doesn't give you a lot of straight lines, He's kind of dry, but not
as a matter of fact.
He's kind of dry, but not the brisket.
Very much better.
Get in there and enjoy that today. You can have potato salad, coleslaw, pea salad,
sweet corn,
all the green
fried
beans, pinto beans. Uncle Mutt's rice is world famous. No kidding. They still make it. They've got the original pot that they first started making it in on a shelf in there, and I'm not exaggerating. Throw in the fact that Jonathan Arterberry and Katina make sure you have the finest tea in the land. Get by Uncle Mutt's today. Pick it up to go. Take it home. You'll be glad you did. Gray Barn Design, another successful weekend, except for Ash's work. Comp playing with his eyeball. Everything went great at the wedding. rave reviews. The reviews have been extraordinary.
Even our listeners.
920-6803. You reach out to Cheryl. She'll make your next event newsworthy. 920-6803. My buddy Carl Went, the folks at Went Services, Went Electrical, Went Plumbing, they do it all. You need solar panels on your building. You want to make the grid go backwards and work for you? Get a hold of Went Electrical. It's storm season. Generac.
Every time you say that, I picture Ferris Bueller trying to roll back the odometer on the Ferrari.
Yes. You just have to own this. What was his name? His buddy's name?
Cameron.
Come on, Cam. Yeah, I never did get over that because I'm a car guy and that was not a good day. It just was not a good day. But
we digress.
It will be a good day. If you reach out to Went, you can get a Generac, Cummins, Kohler, Briggs & Stratton. They've got all kinds of generators.
Think how good your day is the next time we have some sort of event that knocks power out to everybody but you, because you had the foresight and the wisdom to call Went Services.
Absolutely.
And get yourself a backup generator.
Put some solar panels on a roof or out in a yard, and the next thing you know, you've got battery backup to run your appliances. It's a great system. It's an integrated program, and Went can explain it better than us. Call them today.
All right.
So the judge is back. The judge is live. He's got his red pen down for reducing spending.
Stephen Tyler says maybe the point and the goal is to dissuade you from accepting anyone else's bid.
Could be.
BJ Nelson asked why were local contractors not used? The contractors at the airport changed throughout the project. Was that your call, or was that strictly on Virtus and who was overseeing the project?
Mm-hmm. Early on in the repair effort, immediately after Hurricane Harvey, our insurance provider, per the terms of our agreement, sent down a team to tarp things, dry out, tear out sheetrock, just do the immediate needed works. And a huge crew down here.
Mitigation.
Here immediately doing the mitigation, a lot of initial work. They were here. They had the manpower and the ability to then immediately begin doing the repair phase, the recovery phase of that. And that is largely what the court considered in voting to contract with them to do the whole thing. There were definitely no local contractors available to undertake a project of that scope and that size then. Everybody was scrambling, had more work than they could deal with locally. And I know Virtus had reached out to a lot of local contractors to work as subcontractors, none of whom were available. And that's not surprising at all. There were many folks that went a year plus, and even much longer than that without.
There's still some places without repairs.
Very much so. So the idea that there was a local contractor available at that time to undertake a project of that size and scope, it just wasn't available. Good question. What else is coming through on Facebook?
That's what I'm looking for. Let's see.
Wendell Goggle checks in, Steve Kidder, James Kerr.
Well, James Kurth has a question that probably nobody can answer. How many people actually read the reports and the invoices?
That's the point.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
On the court, admittedly, one.
Kevin Yonick. Well, yeah, Kevin Yonick certainly and his crew, because they went through and compiled it all.
Yeah.
Well, they talked about, and I believe, I have to say, I do believe that to a degree it was a soundbite quote. I've told you before that I think very highly of Dennis Patillo, and in that article in the Advocate, Mr. Patillo was quoted as saying, "Well, gee, if Kevin Yonick's team spent a year reviewing this, didn't the county essentially give him a blank check?" And the answer is no, because Mr. Yonick wasn't paid any overtime for all that work. He was just doing more work than he usually does.
Yeah, well, I'm not familiar with that quote, but certainly
that was a paraphrase.
Commissioner Yonick's effort and committee were county employees who were, that wasn't a money-intensive undertaking. It was time, it was effort.
Right.
Yeah, so there was minimal, if any, dollar cost associated with that.
Where has there been any calls on the county to defund the sheriff's office?
Somebody, well,
I believe a letter has been sent to Victoria Police.
Okay, well, one person I ran into asked me that this last week. I thought they were kidding. They were relatively serious, asking if that was going to be an effort. Beyond that one question from one person one time, nobody's mentioned that to me. I think most people in Victoria can recognize the lunacy of that. Defund the police. No, defend the police would be the approach I take. That's not going to happen here. That's crazy.
One that I want to address real quick. BJ Nelson said, "I'm surprised that the insurance company required you to use a certain provider. And as an insurance agent, I can tell you they didn't.
No,
they didn't require you. But let me tell you this:
if anything I mentioned earlier seemed to imply that, that's not at all the case. The insurance company did not require us to use anybody. It was clear from the start that that was entirely our choice, our prerogative. It was not required by the insurance company that we use any particular contractor.
It is absolutely.
They did recommend somebody, correct?
They mentioned two contractors that they recommended that they had used and that had the capacity and scale to do what we needed. That was a recommendation, basically them saying that these people.
We vouch for these guys, yeah.
Right, but that was by no means a requirement, anything that we had to do.
Well, let me give you a great example.
Voted unanimously on that due to the circumstances at the time and the information that we had.
I can give you a great example that's absolutely pertinent and parallels this altogether. We have numerous insurance companies that we represent, Travelers being one of them. Travelers has an extensive network of body shops all around the country. They also have adjusters that come out and look at cars. They also will allow you to have an independent adjuster. So you wreck your truck. You can either demand that a Travelers guy come out, doesn't cost you anymore. He'll come out and review your truck and give you an estimate. Then you can go and try to see if you can get somebody to fix it for that estimate. Or, because you're using their money at that point.
Yeah.
Or they'll tell you, oh, by the way, the body shop at Atzenhofer, they're pre-approved with us. We audit their stuff. They use our software. If you go to Atzenhofer and they give you a bid and they say it's going to be $2,500 to fix that dent, we'll honor that and we'll cut through all the red tape for you. Now, does that mean that Atzenhofer is in cahoots with the insurance company? Or does that mean that Atzenhofer has a relationship with Travelers through years of doing quality work that met customer satisfaction that allowed them to earn that right from the insurance company? That is the observation I've made of this situation, that the Texas Association of Counties said, hey, we know these guys. The idea in the middle of a storm that somebody would say, you should have used a local contractor. I guarantee you that's a local contractor talking.
And the local contractors contacted were not available.
Right. So that it's very common, though, to go use. We all want to streamline our lives.
Well, here's the deal. In any future hurricane recovery effort like this, I mean, you would almost have to contract with, not necessarily, but in all likelihood, use somebody from outside the area, because everybody local will have been hit with the same hurricane we were. I mean, we've looked at the concept of doing pre-bid disaster recovery contracts with contractors. And in that conversation, I mean, they were all larger out of town contractors, because really immediately after a hurricane, that's probably who we would need to use. Not necessarily, but probably. I mean, if somebody local could offer a guarantee they'd be available immediate in the hours, days following a hurricane, I'd be open to looking at that, but in all likelihood, that just wouldn't be practical.
Before Adam's question, my neighbor, the world's greatest neighbor, arguably besides Wendell Geigel, my neighbor, Tom Ennis, former Port Lavaca City Councilman, says, who managed the project and were they actually overseeing the project on a daily basis?
Who managed the project? Our former administrative services director, our current facilities director,
Kelly.
Kelly, were primarily the boots on the ground, along with some other county staff, county employees.
But they were like contractor people. They weren't out there saying, put that beam over there. They were the people that said, okay, what are y'all doing today? The scope of work and all that.
Right. I mean, on the county side, internally, they were the primary point people coordinating the project. Today, if this were to happen again, it would primarily be our county project manager and our facilities director again.
Adam's question is getting some excitement. Here's what Adam Daughtry says.
Why weren't local companies put in place for our emergency plan well in advance before hurricane season, which would that would have them available to adjust their business plan to assist Victoria in case of a magnitude of that type again?
So I think the question is, what do you have? Are you seeking to have prearranged
Local
How do you
companies.
know what kind of contractor you're going to need? How do you know what they're going to do? You know,
And there are some challenges determining that, setting those parameters well in advance. It can be done.
Well, and what happens though if you set those parameters and come to an agreement, and then all of a sudden something like that happens?
what if they suffer loss?
They suffer loss. They no longer have the personnel to fulfill their duty.
Yeah, and in one of the after action meetings after Hurricane Harvey, that's something we reviewed and looked at. Speaking of that, I mean, there are some people who are pretending like we have not reviewed and done after actions on this. I mean, goodness, this has been an extremely thoroughly reviewed and analyzed and improved upon process. You know, our communications effort throughout the COVID situation and the emphasis and I would say effectiveness of our communication effort was largely due to recognizing that during Harvey, the communication was not adequate. That was one of the big shortcomings that we identified in our after action reviews. And that's a prime example of something that was improved upon.
That'll lead to a final question.
One more
Pamela
question.
Crone has one. Due to COVID, how did Commissioners Court determine which commissioners would make cutbacks and layoffs because of sales tax not received by the county? Or have they at this point?
At this point, we are looking at where and what those cutbacks need to be. In order to make that decision and to see how big the impact's going to be, I've said we need to get a few months of sales tax data. One of those, this month's report rolled in on Friday, was down 25%. So like I mentioned to the court yesterday, we're probably going to have to look at cutting $1 million out of our sales tax revenue. And there will have to be some cutbacks due to that. Last time we faced a situation like this, the focus of the court was on departments and activities under the court, under Commissioner's Court, rather than under elected officials, their personnel, their budgets. Will that be the focus this time? That's something we're working on today, this week, and in the weeks ahead. We are in the middle of that process, determining that right now.
All right. Well, appreciate it, Judge. Thanks for stopping by. We're
Good to be here.
blown past our time, but I thought it was interesting and valuable conversation for our listeners.
And not that you need an endorsement, but I'll tell you, I've seen you in numerous situations, in numerous settings, both in groups and individually, and I've never, ever heard anything out of your mouth that didn't make me believe that you're a person of the utmost high integrity. And I think that everything you do with an eye towards its benefit and effect and results for the county. And I just want to thank you for being accessible to us and taking the tough questions.
I appreciate you saying that. I really do. But I would also say that in my view, that applies to our Commissioners Court as a whole. These guys really do share that same value and vision of doing what's best for the taxpayer, for the county. And they really do have the best interests of this community at heart. And I think that's been demonstrated repeatedly over each of their years in office. And, you know, I'm glad to see the outcome yesterday that we arrived at. It was consensus, and that's what we needed.
There you go.
Thanks, Judge. Appreciate it.
Folks,
Judge Ben
as
Zeller
always,
today, tomorrow. Don't forget, retired Lieutenant Colonel Alan West,
can't wait for that.
former Florida congressman running for the chair of the Texas Republican Party. He will join us tomorrow